Welcome back, movie fans. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into a movie that's really close to my horror-loving heart. Tales from the Darkside, the movie from 1990. Now, if you're not familiar with anthology films, just think of it like, a box of chocolates. You get, like a variety of different flavors. You've got three distinct stories, all wrapped up in a, kind of a delightfully sinister wraparound story.
Mhm.
And get this, the film features a rock icon and some familiar faces from the 80s and 90s.
What I find so interesting about Tales from the Darkside, the movie, is that it really captures the spirit of the TV series. But at the same time, it delivers something much more cinematic and, dare I say, even more ambitious. It's not just about quick scares, it really delves into darker themes like morality and revenge and the consequences of our choices.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that wraparound story, which features none other than Debbie Harry from Blondie. He plays a witch named Betty, and she's got this poor kid, Timmy, played by a young Matthew Lawrence, and she's got him prepped for, well, let's just say a pretty gruesome dinner.
Yeah, Betty's kitchen becomes this like macabre stage. She's going to cook Timmy. But Timmy, our resourceful Timmy, he stalls for time by reading stories from a book. And the book is called Tales from the Dark Side. Very appropriate.
Oh, very clever.
This framing device pulls you in immediately. And it heightens the stakes as well because, you're not just watching three unrelated stories. You're actually invested in Timmy's survival at this point.
Yeah, it's like Scheherazade, but with a much more sinister twist. Speaking of twists, let's jump into our first tale, Lot 249. Now, this story takes us to academia, the hallowed halls of academia. But instead of stuffy lectures and late-night cramming sessions, we get plunged into this world of ancient curses and gruesome revenge.
Lot 249 really showcases that blend of horror and dark humor that Tales from the Dark Side is known for. We meet Bellingham, played by a wonderfully creepy Steve Buscemi, before he was the household name he is today. And he's a classic underdog, brilliant, but ostracized. He's bullied by these wealthy, entitled students. Susan and Lee, played by Julianne Moore and Robert Sedgwick in some of the early roles.
And let's be honest, seeing Julianne Moore get her comeuppance in such a gruesome way is, well, it's a guilty pleasure for anyone who's ever been picked on by the in crowd.
Right. That's the genius of the story. It taps into that primal desire for revenge, especially in a setting like, academia where social hierarchies and power dynamics can be so pronounced. Bellingham's actions, while horrific, they're born from years of humiliation and social isolation. He's a figure who is both repulsive and sympathetic.
He certainly is. And the way he uses that ancient Egyptian mummy to exact his revenge is just brilliant.
Yeah.
And the film, it doesn't shy away from the gory details either. I mean, that scene where Susan's body is discovered, sliced open and filled with flowers, it's both beautiful and terrifying.
Director John Harrison, he's known for his work on George Romero's Creepshow. He really knows how to deliver a visual punch. And the practical effects in this story, particularly the mummy, are incredibly well done. There's a weight and a realism to them that CGI just can't replicate.
I totally agree. It reminds me of a time when filmmakers relied on ingenuity and craftsmanship to create truly memorable horror moments. Speaking of memorable moments, there's that scene where Bellingham reveals his deception to Andy, who is played by a young Christian Slater.
Hmm?
The look on Bellingham's face, it's this mix of triumph and utter madness. It's just chilling. It's a reminder that sometimes the quiet ones are the ones you really need to watch out for.
And that ending, with Andy facing off against mummified Susan and Lee, is pure nightmare fuel. It leaves you with so many questions, like, was Bellingham's revenge justified? Can you ever truly escape the cycle of bullying and violence? Lot 249 is a story that stays with you long after the credits roll. It makes you think about the consequences of our actions and the fine line between victim and perpetrator.
Yeah, it's a story that packs a punch, both visually and thematically. And it sets the bar high for the rest of the anthology, which I have to say doesn't disappoint.
So from this unsettling world of academia and vengeful mummies, we transition to a tale that's more contained, more atmospheric, and in my opinion, one of the most effectively creepy stories in the whole anthology, Cat from Hell.
Yeah, I completely agree. This one is definitely a slow burn. But the tension, it builds so masterfully. And having David Johansen, better known to music fans as Buster Poindexter, playing this hitman named Halston, it just adds this really unexpected layer of, I don't know, cool to the story. You don't often see musicians, crossing over into horror, especially with such a straight-faced role.
Right. It's a brilliant casting choice. Johansson, he brings this world weariness to Halston, the sense that he's seen it all and done it all. But even he is completely unprepared for what he encounters in this seemingly simple assignment.
Exactly. So he's hired by this eccentric old man, Drogon, played by the always memorable William Hickey, to eliminate a black cat. Seems simple enough, right? But as we quickly learn, this is no ordinary feline.
You know, what I find so fascinating about Cat from Hell is how it plays with our perceptions of animals, especially those that are often associated with the supernatural. The cat, it's never explicitly shown to be, demonic or possessed or anything like that, but its intelligence, its resilience, and its chillingly effective methods of revenge suggest something far more sinister than just your typical house pet.
It's like the film is tapping into this, primal fear of the unknown, the things that go bump in the night. We tend to think of ourselves as, the dominant species. But Cat from Hell reminds us that there are these forces in nature that we may not fully understand or control.
Absolutely. And the cat itself, it's a masterpiece of practical effects. It's sleek, it's agile, and its eyes, oh man, its eyes, they seem to hold this ancient knowing gaze. Just sends shivers down your spine.
All those eyes, yeah, they're hypnotic almost. And the way the cat moves, so fluid and deliberate. It's like watching a predator, like stalking its prey. You just know that something terrible is going to happen, but you just can't tear your eyes away.
And the climax, when the cat finally exacts its revenge on Halston, it's both shocking and strangely satisfying. It's not, gratuitous violence. It feels earned.
Yeah.
The karmic retribution for all the countless acts of cruelty that are inflicted on animals.
It's definitely a moment that sticks with you.
Yeah.
I've always loved how Tales from the Darkside can deliver these truly disturbing scenes, but they're never exploitative or, mean-spirited. There's always this sense of morality at play. A reminder that our actions, they do have consequences.
Speaking of consequences, let's shift gears to our final story, Lover's Vow. This one's perhaps the most emotionally resonant of all three, exploring themes of love and sacrifice and the burdens of hidden truths.
Oh, Lover's Vow gets me every time. It's a story that blends this, romantic fantasy with gothic horror,
Yeah.
creating this haunting and ultimately tragic love story. And the performances by James Remar as Preston, the struggling artist, and Rae Dawn Chong as Corolla, the mysterious woman who enters his life, just phenomenal.
They have this incredible chemistry on screen. You truly believe in their love for each other, which makes the eventual reveal of Corolla's true nature all the more heartbreaking.
It's such a classic monster lover trope, but it's handled with such sensitivity and depth in Lover's Vow.
Yeah.
You really understand Preston's dilemma, his desire to protect the woman he loves, even if it means living a lie. And Corolla's plight is equally sympathetic. I mean, she's trapped by her own nature, longing for connection, but burdened by this curse that isolates her from the world.
The film does such a beautiful job of visually representing their struggle. Preston's art becomes this window into his tormented psyche. His drawings of the gargoyle are this constant reminder of the secret he's keeping. And that transformation scene when Corolla reveals her true form, it's both terrifying and oddly beautiful. The practical effects, again, top-notch, creating this creature that's both monstrous and tragic.
It's a testament to director John Harrison's skill that he's able to blend all these different tones and genres within, a single anthology film.
Yeah.
Each story feels distinct and complete, yet they all contribute to this overall theme of confronting the darkness within ourselves and the choices we make in the face of fear and temptation.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Tales from the Darkside, the movie, continues to resonate with audiences even after all these years. It's not just a collection of scary stories. It's a reflection on the human condition, our capacity for both good and evil, and the often blurry lines between the two.
And we can't forget about how the film ties all those individual stories back to that wraparound with Betty and Timmy. Each tale becomes a battle for Timmy's survival. He's buying precious time while he's desperately trying to outsmart this witch.
It's such a brilliant use of the framing device. You're constantly reminded of what's at stake, and Timmy's narration, it adds this layer of innocence and vulnerability, which contrasts so sharply with the darkness of the stories that he's reading.
Oh, absolutely. Matthew Lawrence does such a great job as Timmy. He's got this, wide-eyed innocence, but also this cunning intelligence. He's not just a helpless victim. He's actively fighting for his life.
And Debbie Harry, she is absolutely iconic as Betty. She brings this, playful menace to the role, the sense that she's really enjoying this game just as much as she is relishing the prospect of a delicious meal.
She's just the perfect blend of camp and creepiness. You can totally see why she was such a rock star. She just commands attention in every scene. And that ending, with Betty meeting her demise in her own oven, it's both gruesome and satisfyingly ironic.
Yeah. It's a classic Tales from the Dark Side twist. Unexpected, darkly humorous. And it just leaves you with this lingering sense of unease. And Timmy's final line, when he breaks that fourth wall and asks the audience if they like happy endings, just brilliant. It's that final touch of darkness that elevates the film beyond your typical horror anthology.
It's a good reminder that not all stories have a neat and tidy resolution. Sometimes the monsters win, and sometimes that darkness lingers, even after the credits roll.
Overall, I think Tales from the Dark Side, the movie is it's a must-see for horror fans, especially those who appreciate a good anthology film. It's got a little something for everyone. Creepy creatures, chilling twists, dark humor, thought-provoking themes.
Absolutely. It's a film that has stayed with me since I first saw it as a kid. It's entertaining, it's scary, and it really makes you think. And those practical effects, they hold up so well, even by today's standards.
It really is a testament to the artistry and the craftsmanship of filmmakers like John Harrison, who really understood the power of practical effects to create these truly visceral and unforgettable horror moments.
So if you're looking for a fun, creepy, and surprisingly insightful movie night, I highly recommend giving Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, a watch. It's a classic for a reason. And who knows, you might just find yourself sleeping with the lights on afterwards.
Yeah, and just be sure to keep a watchful eye on any black cats that you might encounter. You never know what secrets they might be hiding.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive on Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into, the world of film. We've got a whole queue of cinematic gems just waiting to be explored.
Until next
Happy
time.
watching in